Hey rollerbladers, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about my first 3 months and what I think about the Faction Tactical V1 carbon fiber aggressive boot. And if you don't know about Faction, it's a fantastic company that's been around. It's a brand new, relatively brand new skate company, owned by Clark Kirkman, longtime OG, awesome skater, and has a wonderful team. Jimmy Sizz, China Wirestyle, Cameron Card, Eric Michael, Shred Pool. Fantastic team. Really cool company. So I bought them off of Blade Trade, off of Chad Jones. Thank you, Chad, for a smooth transaction. But I bought these secondhand. They had been he heat molded them once, decided they didn't really fit his foot very well. So I was happy to buy them. I paid almost full price what they would have been, but the thing is these don't stay on the shelves for very long, and they were completely sold out when I bought these. And just looking at the website right now, they're still like sold out in basically all sizes, so it's really hard for them to keep these on the shelves. With this review today, I'm gonna give my I'm gonna give my unbiased, honest review on these skates after 3 months of pretty hard skating. So I'm excited to share that with you, and you can see how I have the skate set up. This is basically how I've had it set up the vast majority of the time. Stock liners. These do come boot only. So these are a carbon fiber boot only aggressive skate. If you go over to the website, they are for about $425. I think they are listed at $425 US. You have the optional Fruit Tech hardware upgrade, which I think is about $50, but I'll put that on screen if it's not, right here. Bing. And so you'll have to pop on your own frames. And shout out Create Originals. They sent me the China Wirestyle frames to test out and review here, and they've been fantastic. So this is kind of how I've been skating them. And shameless plug here, Brandon Drummond's laced wax laces as of like a week or two ago, which these are fantastic. If you want to buy wax laces, support Brandon Drummond, check out the link down in the description below. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk about fit, because I think that's super important. That's what probably most of you are here to find out. So if you haven't measured your foot mondo point yet, I would recommend doing that. Basically, that's your foot's length in centimeters or millimeters, whatever. Mine is a 275 millimeter mondo. Foot is 275 millimeters long. So I have the size 10 US actions here, which you can see 27.5 cm. So that is right at my foot size. So let's talk about how they fit when I first put them on. So when I first put my foot in the skate, I was actually a little bit concerned because it felt really snug, borderline too snug, to the point where I was like, uh-oh. Because the first time I ever skated Factions were actually Anthony Renbarger skates. Shout out Anthony. But I think they were size 9 and they were way too small for my foot. And so when I put these on, I'm like, okay, cool. There's no way that they're going to be too small. I put them on and they were like almost too snug. But in hindsight, these are heat moldable. So it was the second time that these had been heat molded. And after I heat molded them, the sizing was perfect. I am actually very happy that they were borderline too snug initially, because after heat molding, it allowed the skate to expand to my foot. And now the fit is absolutely perfect. No pressure points, no discomfort. I can skate these for as long as I absolutely want to, and I will be exhausted before my feet start to hurt in these. Now, I did actually skate these. I have been skating them with the stock liners, which the stock liner, this is not like a throwaway liner at all. Like, they put some time and effort into this liner. This isn't like your typical stock liner. It's really, really nice. It's kind of like, you know, the Intuitions are really dense and thin. These are a little bit juicier, a little bit thicker. They feel really good. These are really nice liners, and they use really quality materials all around. Like, this is not, again, like I said, this is not your typical stock, you know, stock liner that's relatively low quality. So it's been really good. I did skate these with Intuition liners, and I will say, as much as I love the responsiveness and the feel and comfort of these skates, after skating them with Intuitions, I think in the future, I will plan on putting Intuitions in here. Is it a deal breaker? Is it something that I just can't live without? No, not at all. If I never put Intuitions in these, I'd be fine with it. But I think Intuitions, like I've said before, just make an already great skate even that much a little bit better. I'm not sure that the comfort would necessarily go up when I skated these, but I think the responsiveness. Intuitions are kind of known to make skates more responsive. So someday might pop Intuitions. If not, no big deal. Okay, now that we've talked about kind of fit and feel, we're going to talk about flex and support here a little bit later, but I want to talk about some of the things with the skate that I would improve. These skates are a V1. They're the Faction Tactical version 1s, but these are just some of my key takeaways after 3 months of pretty hard skating on these skates. Okay, number 1 is the hardware. Now, again, I'm skating the stock hardware, not the Fruit Tech hardware upgrade. What I find is that the cuff bolts come loose. Most of the hardware does seem to come loose prematurely. Now, I get it, like, I haven't put blue Loctite or anything in these, and I suspect that that would probably solve the problem. But definitely, you know, there's some skates out there you don't have to check your hardware every single session, but these are not those skates. You need to be checking the hardware basically every session. Same thing with the sole plate screws here, of which there are 8. These tend to come loose pretty often. Another thing, I don't have them with me, but the frame bolts that come with the skates. When I first was setting these up with ground control Featherlight 3s, and I say these, it was actually Anthony Renbarger skates. The stock frame bolts that come with the boot, again, these are boot only, they have this little ledge on them, and let me see if I can actually find them. Digging around, finally found it. I believe what I found was it. So you can see on the screw, the bolt here, there's that little ledge at the bottom that basically with using or trying to use ground control Featherlight 3s, that sort of little ledge did not allow the threads to get all the way to the boot to actually be able to thread on. So I had to end up using some other frame bolts from that I had lying around. This is definitely something that's nitpicky, but on the last session, I noticed that these are getting pretty squeaky, getting a little bit of the razor squeak going on. Nothing that a little bit of wax inside the cuff can't fix, but they definitely got a little bit of, hard to replicate right now, but a little bit of razor squeak going on, which again, you can fix with a little bit of wax on the inside of the cuff, no big deal. One thing I do wish they came with is a shock absorber. So they come stock with no real shock absorption. I guess except for a little bit of this sole plate padding, if you can see, there's a little bit of that sort of, I think that's more for like noise deadening between the sole plate and the boot. And I think it probably has some shock absorption properties as well. But they don't come with any dedicated shock absorbers. So shout out Jared, JDA79. Let me know about these dead shock absorbers, which are like $8. Guys, I don't really do gaps or big drops. I try to avoid them. I'm just a grinder blader. I slide on things and I don't really jump off high places anymore. But I did notice the first time I skated these without these dead shock absorbers that some of the landings were a little bit harsh, to be honest with you. It wasn't bad, but it was definitely like a little bit noticeable. And so after adding those dead shock absorbers in here, it's definitely taking the edge off. I still wouldn't jump off anything super high, not that I'm going to anyway, without like a fatter shock absorber. So that's one thing that I would like to see maybe on the V2, or that I would personally like to see, is kind of like a nicer dedicated shock absorber. Okay, so now that we've talked about some of the things that I would improve, let's talk about some of the things that I like about the skate. One thing I like a whole lot is the flex. I grind a lot. I like to do top sides on ledges. I like to do boot down tricks. And so these have a good amount of flex. It's not excessive, but it definitely has a good amount of lateral flex, and not just lateral. Understand too, these have a lot of forward flex, right? I don't know how to like simulate that, but a lot of forward flex too. I find it's fine and it doesn't negatively impact my skating at all. Would I like to see like maybe 5 or 10% less forward flex? Yeah, maybe if I could choose, but honestly, like I said, I know a lot of people mention forward flex and talk about forward flex a lot. I never even really thought about forward flex until like this year, because I keep having people ask me over and over about forward flex. And so I figured I'd note it here that the forward flex on these is significant, but I personally don't feel like it negatively impacts my skating. But that's just me. Your mileage may vary. So one thing I did notice too, like I said, I've been skating these 3 months and I've been skating them pretty hard for 3 months. And so it's natural for the materials to sort of break in and become a little bit more flexible. And I have noticed that over time, as I've skated these more and more, they have become more flexible, not to the degree where it's a problem, right? I want to make that clear that this is not a problem. And from what I would guess, that any skate that you skate, the more it breaks in, the more it's going to have a little bit more give. I could be wrong on that, but that's just my intuition. So these definitely have a little bit more flex than when I first skated them. I have noticed over the 3 months that I've been skating these pretty hard that over time, just like probably any other skate that you're going to skate, as it breaks in, it tends to have a little bit more flexibility. And so I've noticed that over time, I've had to lace the laces up a little bit tighter and pay a little bit more attention to making sure those are snug, because I like flex, but I don't like excessive flex. And I want to make it very clear that this is not like a problem. It's not like, oh no, my skates are getting floppy, because that's not the case at all. I do notice slightly more flex, that I do need to cinch them up a little bit tighter. Is it a problem? No, that's just been my experience. Okay, let's talk about the sole plate. So the sole plate is a little bit controversial. The design is really interesting and really very distinctive to the skate. Designed by Justin Thursday, and I'm gonna say that I love the sole plate a lot. I think it's cool. I think these back 90-degree angles are really good for rough grinds, which I really like doing rough grinds. They're super fun. But the sole plate right out of the box slides lightning fast. When the wax starts to kind of build up and cake up, yes, they can slow down a little bit, but it's like they slow down to the point where they're just a normal sole plate again. So just scraping off some of that wax, like I'll put my foot on like a ledge or whatever on the side of it and scrape some of that wax off, and they're super fast once again. I really like the backslide groove. It mates up perfectly. I mentioned this before, mates up perfectly with the Create Originals groove. Really love the groove. Love the boot down action here. People do get some of the, I know Jeremy specifically, gives me a little bit of a hard time when I miss like a topside or miss a grind with these, because the sole plates are large. And I joke around that if I skate too fast, these wings will generate lift and I'll start flying like an airplane. The negatives are really good. I mean, the negatives aren't massive, but they are very, very appropriately sized. The way that they're designed, it almost looks like I haven't done that many, but there's like a natural concave sort of design to these, so you can only really see the contact points sort of on the sides here. As far as durability goes with the sole plate, I haven't like just done negligent cess slides with these like I do with my Colts and the Moonshine sole plates, because those things are just bomb proof and those are my beaters. These are not my beaters. But that being said, I haven't done negligent cess slides, but I also haven't taken it easy on these sole plates either. And I would say that the durability is just fine, pretty much just what you would expect. There's a little bit of rounding off, but again, this is 3 months of pretty darn hard skating. And I am thus far really happy with the durability of the sole plate. I mentioned before, it has these 8 screws on the bottom of the sole plate, and I think that probably helps the responsiveness. I never really knew what people were talking about when they said like a responsive sole plate, but now I feel like I understand a little bit more. This does feel like a very responsive sole plate. It kind of does what you want it to do when you want it to do it. And I can't emphasize enough the amount of confidence that I have with these soles, just whether it's the size, the shape, whatever it is, like I have so much more confidence that these I'm going to lock on, I'm going to slide. I just feel like it's more of an extension of my foot. I mentioned that in some other videos, but it just feels a lot more intuitive, like it's part of my foot. And I mentioned before, again, these kind of sound deadening little padding layer between the sole plate and the boot here, that makes these feel really, really solid when you land. It's that like satisfying thud that people talk about with Mesmers. So this is the first soft boot skate that I've had, I think, in a pretty long time, at least as a daily driver. And I was a little bit concerned about the durability going into this, because I'm not exactly easy on my skates. I just skate, and I usually skate pretty hard. Don't try to preserve my skates anyway. So I was a little bit nervous how this like nubuck and some of this soft boot sort of material was going to hold up, and I'm pleasantly surprised. This toe cap has done its job very well. I was especially nervous about this exposed carbon fiber, but as you can see, I mean, it's just chilling. So it's good to go. So that's pretty much my review and my big takeaways from the first 3 months on the Faction Tactical V1s. I am excited. Clark has mentioned on the V2s they're going to be focusing on making the hardware better, and he said they're going to be making some changes to the cuff, I think is what he said for the V2. So I'm excited to see what changes they make. You know, I try to go through and as unbiased as I can through the good and the bad on these skates. My big takeaway from these skates, and I've said it before, that this is my favorite setup I've ever skated. This skate feels like an extension of my foot. Yeah, the hardware comes loose, this and that. You'll notice that a lot of what I mentioned about the little things are largely like just don't have to do with the performance of the skate. I think the performance of the skate is phenomenal. You know, I paid just about full price for these, what they retail for right now. And if you were to ask me at this point, after 3 months of hard skating, if I made a mistake, I'd say absolutely not. I'm so happy with these skates. The more I skate them, the more I look at them, the more I like them, honestly, truly. So I'm excited to continue skating these. I'm really excited to see what changes they make with the V2s and whatever skates they come out with next. And yeah, hey, check out everything I talked about down in the description below. If you want to pick up some factions, good luck, because it seems like they can't keep them on the shelf right now, which is a good problem to have. Love what the company's doing. Shout out Clark and the whole faction team for being amazing. And rollerbladers, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. Without your help, this would not be possible. If you want to support the channel through Patreon, check out the link down in the description below and check out the video on the screen. I'll see you over there.